since I started. I don't even remember how I found him. I was probably shadowing somebody and found him. And he helped me on my first and second inspection to the point that I really started understanding in 2 inspections what was really going on with things. He has never ruined a deal for me. He explains to all of the buyers that everything is fixable. It just depends on how much money you want to spend. And he does know that we are looking for defects and safety items. And he'll explain how to fix things, how to touch up paint, whatever needs to be done. He goes through the process and really helps people do things because he used to be a builder. He works on commercial projects also with commercial inspections. So he's really a wealth of information. And I've had him live here in PC class. He also loves our office and our people and sponsors parties and what have you. So he's one to give back, and he does quite a bit with the community also, which is something that yes, he's really good with all that. So thank you for welcoming him.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions during this class, please input it into your comments, so then we can kind of go through them as we go through the class. So today we're talking about, okay, you wrote in a competitive offer and you were accepted. The first thing you're going to do, one of the first things you're going to do, is have your buyer schedule a home inspection. And so they typically will call that inspector, and then either the inspector or the buyers and or both will reach out to you and let you know when that inspection is scheduled for. So what I do is I schedule that inspection through showing time. And you can scroll down on showing time of what type of appointment it is and just put home inspection. Depending on the size of the house, I will give it minimum 3 hours. If it's a really big house and a lot going on, I may give it 4. It's better to overshoot the time than to undershoot the time, because that seller's going to say 2 hours, 12 to 2, I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock. And then the panic starts to set in for them if your inspector and your buyers and yourself are still in that house and they think that there's something wrong. So give it 3 to 4 hours, and always let the listing agent know, I will text you when we're leaving, so that sellers will know. And you can kind of give them a rough outline of how the inspection went without getting specific as to what your clients are going to be asking for, because they haven't received the report yet, neither of you. So communication before, during, and right after that home inspection is key, because there's a lot of angst for both parties, and we want to just cool the waters by communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you do special, Connie?
I think communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, before you submit an offer, you want to communicate with the listing agent. When you're doing your inspection, you want to communicate that with the listing agent. A lot of them want to know who the inspector is. Go through the timing, and then I do call, or I like to call. Texting is great if you're in a hurry, if you want to do a quick, but I physically call them and say, hey, we're done. The house looked great. The furnace is a little bit old. It is a concern. And I'm going to look over the report, and we'll get back to you as soon as I have something together. So just, a couple of little things. If there's something majorly wrong, I tell them right away. Yeah. The biggest problem we found is the east basement wall is 1 inch off a plumb. So that is a big concern for my buyers. Right. And then we'll look at the report and get back to you. But I mean, if there's just little things, I'll tell them, because the sellers are on edge, wondering, well, some of them are. Some think there's absolutely nothing wrong with their house, but others, you never know, because we don't walk through our own personal houses with a fine-tooth comb to look at things. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could have something wrong with my house. I'm in and out so much. I have no idea what's going on. Mike asked me last night if I'm ever going to do the dishes again. I said, probably not.
Oh, because the dishwasher is broken.
No, I've been cooking, not cleaning, so whatever.
So, let me see if I can,
Kind of gone.
can you share that report? Because I am trying to figure out my new,
Yes. No, I can share it.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll have
Share
to figure it out. But, you know, we gotta practice on somebody. All right, so the first thing is you guys are gonna get a,
I think you have to open it so I can share it, Janine.
oh, I sent it to you in email yesterday.
No, I mean, you have to give me a little bit of power. It won't let me share my screen.
Oh,
I'm gonna share the control here.
oh,
Oh, here we
share.
go. I got it.
Okay. No,
There we go. So
Okay.
here we have the inspection report for 5989 North Ames Terrace in Glendale. And I like this because it's set up with the same program that Jeff uses. Now, keep in mind, all inspectors are a little bit different. As before we got on here, we were discussing. I love this, and there are different programs that inspectors use. Most of them are set up correctly. Or not correctly, I'm sorry. Most of them are set up the same, which are easy to read and easy to use. So the first page is always going to have all of the information about the house on it. The second page will give you your report overview and what to look for with the house, with the approximate age. It'll also explain what satisfactory is, what marginal is, what poor is, major concerns and safety hazards. Good morning. And then it goes into the defects, concerns, safety hazards, and deferred cost items.
And this is amazing because it makes it so easy for, it's consumer friendly. It's really easy to dissect by the buyer and to the seller and to the agents, let's be honest. So the first thing that was called out is the seal between the patio and foundation wall has failed. Recommend scraping old sealer and re-sealing area as needed. Okay, doesn't seem like to be a big deal. There is some cracked missing mortar on the stone siding of the south wall of the home. Recommend tuck pointing area by qualified contractor. The kitchen window behind the sink does not stay open when lifted. Recommend repair by qualified window contractor. The sink in the main bath drains slow. Recommend opening drain with drain cleaner. There is a mold-like substance on the roof sheeting in the attic. Recommend evaluation removal by qualified remediation contractor. Also recommend adding additional roof vents to improve ventilation. And then recommend having fireplace glue cleaned and examined prior to use. Major potential safety hazards, recommend putting a new battery and smoke detector at basement stairs. All right, so is any of this major? You can type it.
Well, there's a couple of items here that are a little controversial.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear mold, I just think it's very scary.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
I would say that the foundation wall failing with the seal with the patio is also something pretty major.
Okay.
Would that equate to something structural if the foundation wall is failed?
I didn't hear that, Janine.
Grady, I'm sorry about the foundation.
Yeah, the first point, the seal between the patio wall and foundation wall has failed. So that's probably going to have like some type of, I don't know if it's like structure or if maybe like water is getting down in there. That may be something that, you know, could be pretty severe, I would think.
Yeah, so he didn't say anything about the basement, but he noted that the outside, the exterior, you know, where they have a poured concrete patio and then there's like this gap. If it's right up to the house, there's usually, hopefully, a gap where they have sealed and that sealer has failed. So he didn't call out anything in the basement that there was an issue, but I think it's more or less saying, you know, water could intrude in the basement if this sealer is not, you know, reapplied. But that's a good note. Anyone else?
I was kind of surprised. I usually work with house to home pretty often, and they are so careful not to say the word mold. I don't know how else you'd say it. But, and then the other thing, just recommending using a drain cleaner. I would think that would be, I don't know, I think the sellers could think, oh yeah, we're just going to use drain cleaner, but we're not going to, you know, investigate that further when it could be a much more major problem with the, you know, the drain.
Yeah, and mind you, now they said mold-like substance. He didn't say mold, but
Right.
that is a red flag of could it potentially be mold. So we're going to be addressing that.
Mhm.
Anyone
Hey,
else?
Janine, I've had some mold remediation people come a couple of times. And it was quite interesting because I had a conversation with the one gentleman and he said, you know, we live in Wisconsin, right? And I said, yes. He says, you understand that we will go from 40 below wind chill to 105 degrees, sometimes within months. He says, so when you have a fluctuation of temperature and moisture in there, there is mold everywhere. He said, so, you know, a large mold problem is definitely a problem. He said, but almost all attics have a little mold because Wisconsin is, I mean, it gets moist and that's what makes mold. So do they definitely need new vents? Probably, but it was quite interesting because he kind of settled down the buyers of this property because he said, you're going to have a little bit of mold everywhere because mold is a floating substance. It's in the air and it gets everywhere. So that was quite interesting to me.
Yeah, I think, you know, more than the mold, it's mold-like substance itself is why is it happening to begin with, and to address that concern. So we'll see how we're going to react to this report in an amendment. Anyone else have any comments?
I before had problems with my drains, and a plumber did tell me never to use drain cleaner because it can actually destroy the inside of the drains instead of actually fixing the problem, making it worse in the long run.
Got it.
Anything about the chimney? Here. And actually keep in mind, you guys, that recommend having fireplace flue cleaned and examined prior to use is very, very common. Yeah, it's very common. And also, if there is not a sticker on the furnace with a list of maintenance, a lot of times the inspector will say recommend having licensed HVAC contractor come clean and inspect the furnace. They're very, very common.
Yep,
Do you find that, Janine?
absolutely. Yes.
A fireplace would not be, having a dirty fireplace wouldn't be a defect, it would be a potential safety hazard. Right? I mean,
See that one more time, a safety hazard? A
Yeah, I
safety
would
hazard
think
for
a potential safety hazard to have a dirty flue or dirty fireplace. That's where I've always seen it before. Just saying that it's a defect could really alarm a buyer.
I never had.
Well, that's a good point. So in this particular inspection, he could see inside the chimney and didn't note any kind of defect, but he just said it could be cleaned out, but there wasn't enough buildup to deter his inspection. He just said, you know, before she uses the fireplace, I would get it clean. You know, That's very, very common.
Yeah.
If it's super healthy, or seems, anything effective because it, through the buildup, then he will recommend to have it professionally cleaned and examined because he sees something that warrants that.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go to the actual amendment. Oh, wait, before you do that, deferred cost items, that's fine. Hot water heater and furnace. So they were fine, but they were old. So he didn't call them out. He just said, just so you're aware of, they're getting to the end of their life, but they're working.
Mhm.
Oh, roof and hot water heater.
Yep. Do you want to go through any more of the inspection, Janine?
Summary, yeah.
I have a question on that report. How long is it? How many
Yes.
pages?
You'll see.
Because I had only one home inspection done and I used the, I think it's Homestead or I believe it's Homestead. And it was so confusing, that report.
Every inspector is different. This was pretty short, but a lot of it from inspectors, there's like the last 10 pages that are
Home site.
printed, just home inspection, things that you can look up that it is not specific to that home. So typically they're about the same, but some inspectors have a lot of attachments to the back. So figure 1 is the tuck pointing needed on the siding. So very obvious, right? And then Grady, here is the figure 2, the foundation patio union needs to be sealed, where you can see the cracks, the openings that could potentially, cause an issue in the basement. Figure 3, the window that will not, I'm just gonna see if I'm out there in that picture. Kitchen window will not stay open. And then the main bathroom drains slow. And then here's the attic, mold-like substance in the attic. And then figure 6 is a smoke detector and basement needs new battery. I mean, this was a pretty simple home inspection. Okay. And this is basically just going through the inspection report without the photos and then putting his same comments that he had put in the summary. And you'll see that this is fairly common, right?
Yep. Age of the roof is 20 to 25 years, so.
So as you can see in the ventilation system, he put in ventilation appears to be adequate. No. So again, reiterating, the venting seems to be a possible issue.
You're saving.
Okay, moss buildup.
Moss buildup. Whoops. That was kind of fast, sorry.
Okay, so look at the general comments. Roof is nearing its normal useful life. Ding dong. Note that.
And roofs are good for, depending on the shingle, 20 to 30 years. So keep that in mind. Some go longer, some go shorter, but 20 to 30 years is normal life expectancy on shingles. And all of this stuff you guys will learn the more you go through it. Okay, so yes, so Bethany had said, so cedar shake shingle is good for 40 years if they are maintained, because they will rot out if they're in the shade and they're not taken care of in 10 to 15 years. I mean, it's wood. Metal roofs are supposedly lifetime. Yep. So keep in mind the type of shingle, but with your cedar shake shingles, they are supposed to be cleaned and basically a sealant put on them and a demoisserizer, demolded, you know. Yep.
They're beautiful roofs, but they need more upkeep, basically. And they're expensive to replace.
They're very expensive to replace.
Yeah. Again, they're just going through, you know, the checklist of, you know, every single thing in this home.
Yep. It's nice how they break everything down so you can really go through everything, but I love it that it's summarized all in the beginning.
Yes. Very easy to read.
Yep. And I really like this here too. Condition report above reflects the visible portion only. Keep in mind if there's finished basements, they cannot see the walls behind the finished portion of the basement because inspectors cannot remove drywall to look at the walls. Okay. Here's the AC. They have the brand and the model number. What most inspectors do is they will look up the model number to see with all of your appliances and your furnace and your air conditioning to see if there's any recalls. And they will get a hold of the buyer and let them know if there was some sort of a recall, if it was handled or not handled on it, which is really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, in the serial number. I know.
I know it's there. It's year and then month and then thing. Yeah, it's in there.
The garage, they go through everything on the garage. The kitchen. Everything looks good here. This house is actually quite clean. Kitchen window behind the sink does not stay open, so it's reiterated in the kitchen area.
Time and time again.
Yep. Laundry room. Looks good. Actually, it's pretty clean. Whoops, pretty clean house.
The interesting part about this, you guys, is this is now, it was back on the market just a couple months ago and due to close in a couple weeks already. So she only lived there for a short period of time.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
That's interesting. This, I have never seen this before, Janine. Recommend opening drain with drain cleaner.
I know. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean,
Kevin O'Shaughnessy, do we have an old roof and a mold type substance in the attic? Do we ask for a new roof or just a roof inspection? I'm not going to answer that. Why don't you guys type in comments, what do you think we should do? And if you can maybe go into the comment section and state what you think we should be asking for in this home inspection amendment.
everything else here is really
Hello?
Hey, Connie, can you scroll up to the very beginning of that report so they can see the defects and.
Okay, who needs to be muted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want your building?
Can you mute Adriana? Janine?
Oh, hi, Eric. How are you? Good. How are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay,
Maybe.
she's muted.
There we go. Okay, back to defects. So if you guys could put in your comments what we should be asking for in the home inspection.
I think some of it is, you talked about there, is that mold breaking them off?
Yeah.
Or is it not?
Yep.
You know, I don't know that battery that's smoke detector. Yeah, for sure. Or the 245.
Be part of your closing gift.
Okay, so we have,
I had a closing yesterday that the garage door opener didn't work on the final walkthrough. So I just took it with me and I put a new battery in it. It's just
You went above and beyond.
above and beyond, you know. Although those little darn battery, it was a $6 battery. I'm like, what the heck?
all right, so here are some of the comments that we're getting. Roof inspected by a licensed roofer and then ask for money back if it's at the end of its life. Credit due to roof as end of life as needs replacing. Have licensed roofer inspect it. Depending on competitiveness, I'd go for a credit. Roof inspection, yes, credit for the roof. Fireplace inspected by a licensed contractor in that field. Anyone else? Put it in there.
Puck pointing to be done.
So it says end of life, it doesn't say any replacement, so I might just ask for a credit. Discussion, you know.
Yeah.
I know, that's kind of like, you want to lose your $600 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's end of life.
Yeah.
End of life would be 5, 10 more years. You should have sold my house.
Okay, so Connie, let's go to the home inspection amendment.
Okay. Yep. Now, and keep in mind, when we're looking at the inspection, the buyer is the one buying the house. Some people are handy, some people are not. Some people think the world is going to end if they need to put a new battery in the smoke detector, and others don't. So keep in mind when you're talking to your buyers, what does the buyer want? And I'm going to do a little quote here. Shut your trap. I'm not sure who it came from, but shut your trap. Listen to the buyer and see what's really, really important to them. And keep in mind, we're looking for defects and safety items. Another thing to keep in the back of your mind, we are buying the house as it is today, not how it will be next year or in 5 years. So if things are working today, that's where we're at. We can't, look into the future. When is the end of your life? When is the end of the life for the, all these different things. So keep that in mind also. So, sorry, Janine, go ahead.
No. So the first thing that we did was, immediately realize that the roof wasn't a major issue, and that's, a very large expense. This was a very competitive time in the market, just like it is today. So we were keeping everything in mind, but, mindful of what the buyer's needs were. So the first thing we did is I let the agent know that there is a potential issue with the roof, surprise, surprise, and we would like to get a roofer out there, as well as having having the growth in the attic assessed, because we didn't want to deal with any type of active mold issues, right? So that's what we did. We got, in this case, AD roofing out, and then we had a company that specializes in potential mold growth, and have that evaluated. So with that being said, the roofer's report came back stating that the roof is at the end of its life. However, it isn't defective. There isn't any current leaks. And the reason behind the growth was exactly what the inspector called out. Possibly it's the venting. So once we had all of that data, we knew that there were attic vents that needed to be installed. And we also knew that there was some active growth, and we had the report, and we wanted that removed. So very specific, I attached the reports to this amendment. And then the two other little things were the kitchen sink and the batteries. We talked about the sealant between the patio and the home. And the buyer's father was there, and he's like, oh my gosh, I can do that, and I'm not worried about the tuck pointing. So Connie was right. when you get that home inspection report, it's sent to you and the buyer. I let them look at it. I call them within 24 hours to say, what are your major concerns? And together we came up with this. And
A
of
big
course,
one that I find with older houses is they do not have the kitchen outlets updated. So a lot of times people will like that because if a outlet is within 5 feet of a water source, it needs to be the GFCI outlets. And with one of my buyers, I was going to have them do that. And he says, oh, never mind, don't do that. My uncle is an electrician and he's going to replace it. And we're going to put all can lights in the kitchen anyways. So, and that's usually, I'm going to say a 95%er that people will want to have done. So that was,
right.
See what the buyers want.
So as you can see on line 28, when it says the attached, that's where I'm putting the AD roofing and the ABS mold invoices attached. And I wrote this on the 10th of May. And I needed this to be signed and accepted by the 11th. Now, this was not a surprise to the listing agent by giving them a day. She had already known prior what we were going to be asking for, and she had that discussion with the sellers. It took me a little while to get this out because getting a roofer and a remediator out there to test and write a report, I knew was going to take a little bit. So you have to get on that immediately when you get this inspection report back. You have to make a lot of phone calls.
Well, and that's why you want to schedule your home inspection as soon as possible. I know we have 10 to 15 days, depending on what you write in your offer, to do that home inspection. That is the date that all of this has been negotiated and signed. So, you know, if you wait until day 14 and then we have to try and get contractors in, it's not going to work. So we need to get that inspection in as soon as possible after that accepted offer.
I have a question, and I apologize if this was already asked and answered. I had to join late because I had a call. But when we bought our house, we had the inspection, we got the report, we decided what we wanted fixed. It was like mold, roofing, similar to this. But the agent that we worked with had us write the amendment requesting the repair as opposed to having already remediated and done the repairs. So like, is the way that you did it more typical, or is the way that he did it more typical?
That's a good question. In this case, I wanted the buyers to be in control, and I wanted to have somebody come out and look at it for our sake. I didn't want to have the seller take that on. We
Right.
wanted to hire our people.
That's what I was anxious about when we were doing it, because I was like, well, then they just get to hire whoever they want. And yes, they may be licensed, but maybe they're not who I would have hired.
Well, and they're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to look at the issue and report and repair as needed, regardless of who is making that phone call. But you're right, Bridget. If I can, as a buyer's agent, I like to be in control and facilitate that. Sometimes you can't because of time constraints.
And then also, like, are you just staying in constant contact with the seller's agent? Because say we didn't know that if they were going to agree to do all of these things. So
yeah.
I wouldn't want to have $1,000 of roof work done and then have them say pass.
Yeah, this was actually a Keller Williams agent. I kept in touch with her from, the moment we were at that inspection and got the report. We knew what our path was going to be. Mm-hmm. And she was very easy to work with, as were her sellers. There
Okay.
wasn't any surprises. Somebody asked me, did I give the sellers the right to cure? I did not. I did not give them the right to cure.
Correct. And it depends on the house that you're going for. And I mean, right now with,
Right.
yeah.
So I guess it kind of depends on the agent and that you're working with.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why time is of the essence. So it's really good to have, you know, and we can share any contacts that we have with any of you guys of who our go-to people are that are responsive. That's part of the problem is, you know, this is great. You're giving me all this information, but how quick can I realistically get people out there for, right? And if you're putting it in the hands of the sellers, you're kind of losing that control. So I like to take it over, and it's a lot more work, but then your buyers are going to be satisfied because you know that you were kind of facilitating the contractors that were going through the property.
Mhm.
Yep.
So Janine, what do you do if you get a home inspection back on one of your listings that's just a hot mess?
I cry.
Okay, good.
I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise if it were one of my listings that it came
Yep.
back a hot mess.
Yep.
I think, you know, when you're going to that listing appointment and you're walking the property with that seller, you have to be really careful and not be over enthusiastic about their home. You need to be very honest and upfront about things that could potentially be an issue at home inspection, because
Yeah.
you're going through that home with a buyer agent set of eyes, and they're buyers of what is most likely going to be coming up. So anything is not going to be a super surprise, right? And
Correct.
if,
But what if you have an inspector who finds things that really don't warrant what he wrote on the report? I've had it happen to me a couple of times. And we have an agent here who just had one.
so then I would, you know, that's his opinion on whatever he is considering a defect. That's when
Yeah.
you call the specialists out and get their opinion. If it's a furnace, if it's an AC or a roof, then that's when
Yeah.
you get your experts in, period.
Okay. So call in your backups.
Call your backups.
Yeah. Yep. And unfortunately, you can't control who the buyer brings in for your inspections when you have the listing. I mean, it is their right to bring them in, as long as they're a licensed inspector. But,
Yeah.
The concerns that this buyer has, according to the agent, aren't even concerns that were pointed out as defects. It was a separate conversation he had with that person.
well, if it's not, okay. You probably didn't hear that, Janine. So the concerns of the buyers are not on the report. It was a separate conversation he had with the inspector that they're concerned with. So what happens is if you read your offer to purchase, it specifically says in there, the inspection will state, okay, what is to be discussed, argued, fixed, taken out, whatever it is. It has to be written in that inspection report. Whoever talks smack in a bar or on the street, it doesn't matter. It has to be written in that report. Otherwise, they cannot back out because it's not a written noted defect or safety item. Any additions, Janine, to that?
Well, we just had something that actually came up. It was, I'm trying to think here. We had some of the tuck pointing come up on a chimney in the front of the house. And when we got our mason out there to look at that, he really took a look at the whole house and found that the whole back end of the home was not structurally correct mason-wise, and it could cause a major issue that was not brought up in the inspection report. So that was a little pickle. We we had him write up a report as to you know, what he saw when he looked at the home. And
And are you the buyer's agent or the selling agent?
I am the buyer's agent.
Okay,
It was significant. It was, I
okay,
think, close to $10,000. And we went back with this report and we were able to get that worked out. It was
Nice.
not on the inspection report, but
but the tuck pointing on the front of the house was,
and the chimney.
and did it say consults a mason? Okay,
Yeah. But not for the back.
so, yeah, I would think with consulting a mason, you know, then you have that one under your belt because you are bringing in that professional. So it was originally stated on the inspection report?
Not the back end of the
Not
house.
the whole thing, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it was missed. It was not brought up on the inspection. Now, mind you, he's not a mason, right? So,
Yeah,
I feel like I
Yep.
might have the dumbest question that I've
Oh,
ever
good.
asked, and I'm really scared. There's a lot of people on the call today. If you did not give the seller the right to cure, I'm confused about the amendment. Looks like they do have the right to cure, and you're asking them to cure these things, but you didn't give them the right to cure. So am I lost?
that's actually a great question.
yeah, go ahead, Connie. I'll put my input in there.
On that.
So in the offer to purchase, you are giving the seller the right to cure or not the right to cure. So if you're giving them the right to cure, that means that the buyer cannot walk away if the seller will fix it. There is still an option of making repairs, but the buyer has the right to walk away if they find a defect or a safety item without having it repaired. Does that make sense? You still have the safety net that the buyer can walk away if there's a safety item or a defect, but the seller still has the option to fix, replace, repair.
So the seller could fix all that and they could still walk away.
It's a either or, yeah. Yeah,
So that's why when you do give them the right to cure, you want them to make sure it's cured in a professional license, whatever.
yes,
Because otherwise you could just like put duct tape on.
yes, you want to make sure that they are repairing, replacing by a licensed HVAC contractor and I was put all of that in, so.
Isn't that in the verb, like, is that detail? It's like.
Yes.
In the pull down.
Yep, in the pull down with your amendment, keep in mind with, when you're making up your amendment, on the drop down with a little pencil, it does have the verbiage of, good and workmanship like matter and, receipts and invoices and lien waivers 5 days prior to closing. Yep. Yep. Yep, right to cure with limits. Does that make sense? Does that help?
So remember, meeting, Joan, our compliance broker was talking about being very careful in this competitive market when you're representing your buyer. So she did talk about giving the right to cure. And of course, you don't want to lose an offer because you didn't give the seller the right to cure. If you are giving that seller the right to cure, then you need to really explain to your buyer what that means.
Yep.
So I've seen offers that come in, and I've written many that I'll give the seller the right to cure up to a certain amount, and buyer and seller to agree upon scope of work and professional contractors used. So kind of you're kind of giving it to them, but you're not. Or buyer will assume up to $1,500 of any home inspection item or something like that. You can be clever. So giving them the right to cure.
So Janine,
Depends.
would you write that in the offer, Janine, or are you talking about the
I'd write it in the offer. Mhm.
Oh, okay, okay. Because recently I have had offers where I did not put right to cure, and I got countered to change it to right to cure.
Sure.
And I did then really have to explain it in detail to my buyers so they really understood. And I just want to mention something. I had my first mold-like substance in a house that was built in 1865, and it had many, many additions. And there was mold-like substance in 3 different roofing areas. And I was so freaked out and scared about it. The remediation, everything cost $1,400. That was it. And the sellers were happy to take care of it. They put new roof fence in. So it's not as scary of a thing.
Right.
And the roofing guy said the same, or the remediation guy said the same thing that you guys were talking about in Wisconsin. There's going to be mold.
Yeah. In Wisconsin, there's going to be mold.
So don't be scared if that happens.
You guys, I had a home inspection. I sold a home where there was an older woman that lived there, and she never opened up her windows at all. And I think the 60 years that she lived there, bless her heart.
Yeah.
Tight as a drum. And when we had the home inspected, there was mold-like substance everywhere. Even on the walls, the inspector had this flashlight, and you could see these dots everywhere.
Yep.
So very.
Yeah.
Janine, did you ever go back to that bad inspector and use them again?
This one?
The one who didn't discover the big structural problem?
The big structural problem. I don't know what.
The
masonry.
$1,000 expense.
Oh, honestly, I did not call that inspector. The buyers did. So it's not somebody that I would typically use anyway. But that's a good question. But back to the home that had the mold-like substance everywhere. The first thing we did was figure out why. Like, why is this happening? There wasn't any in the roof. She didn't open up her windows. And then we called out a remediator, and we solved the issue as to why it's happening. And then what is it going to cost to alleviate what's already occurred? And it really wasn't a big deal, but in the moment of it, you're going, we're out of here. So don't try to overreact, kind of just keep calm, get all the facts. Don't be an alarmist. And it's very hard when you are relying on a paycheck that you don't want to give the indication that I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this thing alive, no matter if it's good for you or not. So just remember, if this falls apart, and maybe it should, then you're going to be more respected because you're going to find them something else. So don't be attached to the outcome. Be attached to your relationship with your clients.
I agree 100%.
A lot of credibility, and it's hard.
And you know what? When they say things happen for a reason, they truly happen for a reason. I found it even before I was selling. My husband and I, we did rentals and flips, and there are a couple of them that I wanted so bad because I knew that we could do so much with it and really make the money on it, and it didn't turn out, and it fell through, and then come to find out it was really way over our heads. And then we found something else that was better. So it definitely happens, especially with your buyers. When you find something that falls through, oh my gosh, they're going to cry. You're going to cry. It's absolutely awful, but something better will come up. I promise. Something will come up that has a better kitchen layout or a better backyard for the kids, or just something that they really, really wanted that they were sacrificing for this house. It will come around.
It will, and they'll thank you for it. And you can just say, you know what, a year from now, we're going to look back and you're going to drive by that house, and you're going to be glad you did it.
Mm-hmm. I have some buyers who I'm working with, and the $300,000 to $400,000 range is just, well, everything's crazy right now. Oh my gosh. And we went to look at a house, and we were standing in the yard, and their fists were clenched. They didn't know if they should write an offer. And I said, you go home. I said, we think about it tonight. I said, they're not going to review offers until tomorrow. I can write an offer quick. It's not a problem. And Mr. called me later and he says, I have the biggest problem with FOMO. He says, if I write an offer on this, I think I'm going to miss out on the house that we really, really want because we're settling for this one. I said, when we walked into this house, it's not the one for you. And he said, what? I said, I can tell when it's the house for somebody because your shoulders come forward, you get so excited, and you guys walked around too much and were thinking too much. It wasn't, you know, the relaxed, you can just kind of tell. And I told him this and he said, really? And my husband was standing right next to me. He says, why are you talking them out of that house? I said, I'm not talking them out of the house. I said, but it's just, they're not in love with it. It's just not quite right. And I know we're moving forward, but we don't have to have an accepted offer until March. So we have some time to work things through, but you know.
Even sometimes it's like, especially if they're a new buyer and they just are like, they're not ready.
Yes.
They have to practice.
Yep. And they have to see a little bit more, and you know, so working with your buyers and seeing where they're coming from and what they want. Now I know, because we've gone to see 4 houses and she sent me things that I know exactly what they want. I'm waiting for it to come up. We haven't found it yet.
I just had that same thing with a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
They put an offer in, they lost, it was up against 9 offers. They were
Yep.
so upset. There was so much work that needed to be done, like roof and just cosmetic work. And then a week later, we found the property, same price, everything would be unpaid.
Okay. Did you guys hear that?
No.
No.
So she has
Can't hear
buyers
who's
who,
talking to you.
Maybe they can write their comments in the comment section because it's throwing
Okay.
us off. Yeah.
yep.
Sorry.
So they have buyers that they were taking around. They put an offer in against 9 other offers, but it needed a new roof and it needed some other things. And the buyers were so upset that they didn't get it. And the following week, a house came up, very comparable, same price, with a new roof, with everything. So it will come around.
It will come around.
Yep.
Here is a question from Bridget Ty. So if you give the sellers the right to cure, is there any way to get out of it? A buyer's agent I was working with on my listing said, I will give you the right to cure, but there's always a way to get out of it. Sassy. Yes, that's it. So you're giving them the right to cure, but let's say they are not going to, they don't agree with your amendment, right? So we have something similar going on right now. We, always do. We are giving them a notice of defect and we're listing everything that came up in that home inspection. We're listing everything. We're like being extremely detailed. And then we are also giving them a cancellation and mutual release. So they can either decide to take care of these defects or not. And if not, they're going to sign that cancellation and mutual release. Leanne is going through this, LA is going through this right now. Do you try to encourage the buyer to use our recommended inspectors? You don't have to give them a list of more than one inspector. I always do. We send out our top 3 and kind of let them choose. I always put my favorite on top and, kind of goes down from there. But we send a list out, but you're always going to be asked, who do you recommend for a home inspector? And you can, but I send out 2 others along with it because sometimes that home inspector that you love is just not going to be available. Let's be honest. So, and I think that the inspector that was on last week really pointed out, and we had a home inspector on our JSG meeting on Monday about what is protocol for the agent. And I can't tell you enough how many times I have heard from home inspectors that it is shocking, not Keller Williams, of agents that are not going to their home inspections with their buyers. That's appalling to me.
Yeah. You should know what's going on with your deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is your job. This is why you're being paid. You are being paid to represent your buyers in this deal. And if you don't know what's going on with that deal, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, you cannot clearly write an amendment and fight for your buyers if you don't know what's going on. And hearing it secondhand is never the way to go.
And you're going to have all kinds of buyers, you guys. You're going to have, and this is what I see a lot, is the wife wants that house so bad she doesn't even care what's on that home inspection report. Honestly, and I'm just like throwing it out there. It can be the other way around too. The husband may be very analytical. I have had so many husband or wife that is, you know, an engineer or an accountant, and everything has to be lined up. You will know that before going through the process of their personalities. So it's your job. Like, it was kind of a joke. I had this buyer and we're looking at 1920s homes, and he is in his mind, everything has to be perfect. All the windows have to be perfect. And it, you know, it got to the point where the toilet had to be, I mean, it was kind of funny. So I knew this about him. And I really had to have a frank conversation of, we're not going to get everything you want. You may find the perfect house with the perfect remodeled kitchen, and all the windows need to be replaced. You know, in your price range. Even if it were $1 million home, that could be the case. So you have to educate them on their expectations. If they're too high, you just kind of have to keep going at it. It's a real psychological, you're a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And I have a question. I learned so much about homes in general by being there, following the inspector and asking questions. I would never not want to be there. Yes. Josie has a question.
I have a question for you. When you said that you did your amendment and you listed everything down in detail as much as you could, and then you also did the mutual release agreement, is it because at that point your buyer wanted to get out?
Well, because we were up against the deadline, and we just wanted to let them know, basically, hey, this is what we expect to have done, and if not, please just sign this release because we're going to move on.
Okay. Not that your buyer just wanted to get out after hearing the report, the inspection report. It's just that you wanted to.
It could be in different cases. Yeah. Yeah. Like they're looking at this going, no, we want out. So I don't necessarily always send out the camera with the notice of defect. Sometimes I do, depending on the situation.
But if the seller came back and said, we're willing to fix everything, then they can't get out of the deal, correct?
Right. They would sign it. Absolutely. Exactly right. Then they would sign that amendment and we're all in.
Gotcha.
Yep. Somebody asked, can you go over a typical shelf life of major items like hot water heater, furnace, AC, etc.? Yes. Nothing is built like it used to be. So hot water heater is, I would say, 8 to 10 years.
You can.
Furnace, 15 to 20. AC, again, it depends on how often they use it. I would say 15. Roof, 20. 25.
So Janine, if a house falls through because of the inspection, when you put it back on the market, do you put something in private comments? What do you do when you reintroduce that house back onto the market?
Well, first of all, the seller should amend their real estate condition report because more than likely it fell apart for a reason on the home inspection and something wasn't disclosed. So that first needs to be done. Then secondly, I don't put in any remarks that it fell apart during home inspection. That is not a good idea. You represent your seller, then it's already saying it. Yeah. So you may get a phone call from an agent and they'll ask you, why did this fall apart? And that's when you can say, you know, look at the amended condition report And these buyers decided to move on, but we have addressed it, you know, whatever.
You're going to amend, so the question was, are you sharing that amendment from the inspection? You're showing them the amended real estate condition report.
You're not showing anything between the
Not the
buyer and-
amendment from the prior deal, the amended real estate condition report. Yep.
Right.
Yep, great question.
Very good question.
Yep.
So just like role play, I call the listing agent. I'm like, okay, sounds like there's a few things, this, and this, and they go, no, they're not gonna do that. Then
okay,
what happens?
Okay,
Because
so Bridget,
I know me, I'll just be so scared that, oh God, we're gonna lose this. If we send them this, it sounds like scary listing agent.
all right, so I'm going to be the Nurse Ratchet real estate listing agent. You're going to be the buyer's agent. And let's say you, the roof was at the end of its life. There were major issues with the chimney. And the hot water heater, it was defective. So you're calling me and saying, Janine, we're going to be asking for these things. And I'm going to say, you know what, Bridget, it is such a competitive market that my sellers really don't have to do anything. So we're not. So on your side, I would go back to my buyers and say, this is what the agent said. We still have X amount of days left in our home inspection window, and I suggest that we write up what we would like, and they have then in time to counter that amendment. So I wouldn't just take that person's word for it. I mean, because is she really speaking for the sellers, or is she just speaking for herself? I've seen it. So I would go ahead and ask for it if that's what the buyers are wanting. And
Yep,
put it in writing. Sometimes too much chit chat back and forth between the two agents can create like a stalemate in the transaction. So at some point, put it in writing and send it over, and let those sellers, you know, that they have reviewed it, because they have to initial it or sign it that they've accepted it. So, you know what? And they then may be getting a little bit nervous about the next transaction. The thing to be, you know, aware of is that while you have an accepted offer, there's also room to have a secondary offer. And that really puts your offer in a squeeze, because you know that there's someone behind you that may already know about the issues on home inspection, and they're willing to waive them. So this is my train of thought. I give all the information to the buyers. I explain the information. If I can't answer it, I'll be, you know, call that Mason person. Have them have those conversations, not you, so they have a comfort level, and then work together with your buyer. And if it didn't happen, it didn't happen, but let it come from them, not from you.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be blamed, you know, as you're now, that one fell apart and you're starting to look at homes, you're like, I wish we would have gone back to that first house. Well, if it was your idea, then they're gonna be well heeled going on to the next.
Yeah.
So are you saying, let's say you got that 10-day window for the inspection and you find out on day 5, these things you're going to send in the amendment. Should you strategically wait till like day 8?
No.
So that they're kind of up against a wall? That's bad. Okay.
It is bad, because you know what, those sellers and that agent will resent you.
Okay.
Yeah. And it will most likely fall apart, because then they feel like they've been pushed up against the wall. So I am Johnny on the spot. Let's get it out there. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't work out. Next. You know, you have to keep in mind, like this one inspection report that we just went through. Interestingly enough, this particular buyer of mine, this was going to be, you know, they all think my forever house or my 10-year house. And it's back on the market, and it got an offer. And guess what? what did it say about that roof? It was at the end of its life. Guess what happened when she put it on the market? New roof.
Life.
Yeah. So, I mean, and she's like, I know you told me. I knew this was going to be an issue, and I'm prepared for it. Yeah. All right.
I have a question for you.
Josie, we need to see your face.
Pardon me?
We need to see your face.
Oh, my goodness. Hold on. There I
I don't know
am.
where I'm going to. There you go.
Question for you. There are times that, like, say a deal fell through, an agent.
Uh-oh. Freeze. Yeah. We lost you. Janine, I can't hear her. Can you?
No. Can maybe type it in? Has anyone had a home inspection that they want to share? Any issues that came up? Anything they may have done things differently? Anything you want to talk about?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. I don't know what happened. I'm on a laptop that I haven't used for a while, and I think it wants to do some updates here. Question for you guys. When a deal fell through due to inspection, why do an agent use the previous home inspection instead of just amending the condition report?
I couldn't hear that.
So she had asked why do agents not?
Why would an agent post a home inspection report if a deal fell through?
Would they or would they not?
Why would they?
Well, it is not your home inspection to post. It is the buyer's home inspection. So you do not have any right to publicly share that home inspection because you did not order it or purchase it.
Okay.
So the seller needs to amend their real estate condition report with the findings of that inspection. You can't share that unless you have permission from the previous buyer, which most likely they will not give.
Okay, because I do know two people that obtained the previous home inspection. And I'm pretty sure that they got the permission for it. But why would they release it?
I'm telling you, there are so many agents that reach out and say, hey, Janine, what happened with that accepted offer? And I'll say, you know, this is what happened on the inspection, and they've amended the condition report. Can you send over that previous inspection report? No.
No.
It's not but the agents do. You know, you're going to see it all. But it's really not for them to release. It's those buyers need that inspector. So
you can talk about what like previous issues on the inspection report, but you can't you can't deliver it to someone else.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Correct. Keep in mind that buyer bought and paid for that home inspection. It's really their property. It is not your place to be sharing that inspection report. If the seller, correct. So if the seller does a pre-inspection or a listing inspection, that is different. That you can share.
Last week we talked about, and I'm going to pull up Kimmy Herbert's email. Hold on. Here we go. Let's say that you're the listing agent and you are aware of defects the seller has failed to disclose. It happens, guys. Agents have an additional duty to disclose beyond what sellers disclose. Agents must disclose the potential of any material adverse facts. So the listing visual inspection form, and this is really interesting because I sold a property and it had previously fell apart twice on home inspection. And the seller did not disclose it in his condition report. However, the agent had a part of her documents, a listing visual inspection form, and she disclosed what she knew about from a prior inspection. And so she had it as a part of her documents, and there were reports attached, and my buyers looked at it, were aware of it, and we had them initial it when we submitted our offer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
when you're going through the house and you're listing that house, keep in mind, you're gonna go through, you're gonna take all your notes. And if you see anything wrong with that house, that's blatantly wrong, and the seller does not put that on the real estate condition report, you, as an agent, need to be filling out that visual inspection report. For the agent visual inspection, is it report addendum?
yes, but there is but there is also a disclosure of material adverse facts. And this is something that if you see it and it's not disclosed, or if you're seeing it when you're going through the listing and they did not disclose it on their condition report, it is up to you to disclose it. So it's disclosure of material adverse facts, and you sign your name, and the broker signs it, and then the buyer signs it. So CYA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
just make sure everything is disclosed.
Yeah. So let's say that you're going through the home with your seller and you see water coming in through the basement and a bulging wall, and they do not disclose it. Well, you would think it would come up on home inspection, but you saw that, you need to disclose it in the material adverse form, because you saw it, they didn't disclose it, and you can't help them fill out that condition report. It's for them to do. We kind of, I wouldn't say put a little fear into them, but listen, this follows you for 7 years. Disclose, disclose, disclose. It's better to disclose everything you know, because it most likely is going to come up on home inspection, and it just behooves you to, good, bad, and ugly, put it out there. No home is perfect.
Did I tell you about a listing that I had that the seller had a 3-page attachment putting everything that was wrong with the house? No, he wasn't in it.
Mine wasn't a, but I love those. Bring it on.
Yeah. I mean, the house they bought it 20 years ago to redo it, and they hadn't done anything in 20 years. It was the biggest piece. Oh my God, that farmhouse. It was the biggest piece of crap I've been in a long time, right? I have worse words for it. Yeah. Bethany did an open house for me. And I said, I'm just warning you, it's a hot mess. It's like beyond hot mess. Somebody is gonna, actually in a year, I'm gonna go knock on the door and see what this gal did to it, because it's gonna be amazing. So I said to him, because I knew walking through, I'm like, oh, holy Jesus, here we go. We're in a hot bucket of trouble here, right? So when I gave it to him, I said, you must write down everything that's wrong with this house. I said, because if you don't, and if you have a piece of duct tape on something and they find that and they come back, because he was known for duct tape.
Oh.
I said, they can come back at you because you tried to hide something. I said, so you have to do everything. Well, when I came to pick up that real estate condition report and there was 3 pages attached explaining everything, I'm like, okay, I guess I was pretty forward on
Yeah.
I was pretty stern on what to do with this whole thing, but you know what? When the person who put the offer in she had a home inspection, and the home inspection, I've never seen a 75-page home inspection report. There was that much wrong with it.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, it was, and so when I got this, they're like, okay, we're good to go. Nothing I didn't expect. Like, I cracked open a bottle of wine so quick, you never know what hit you. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I never thought in a million years that this house would sell because it was in that bad. I mean, we were 100,000 over market in a good, when it's done, we were 100,000 under. But nope, nothing I didn't expect. Let's go.
You know what? I never see surprise. Who, one of you, those who are still on, which is quite a bit, we have 25 participants. Type in comment of what you would like for Connie and I to address next week.
How about when you're on the rent?
Can you type it in? Because we can't hear you.
Yep,
I'm just looking.
CMAs.
The seller? Okay.
Home warranty. Yep.
Inspection.
Type everyone, because I know you have things that you want us to go over.
Anything else?
MLS subscriptions. Oh, Teresa Brown, the MLS subscription, is that setting up your accounts in MLS?
Say that again.
7 days you can get out.
MLS subscriptions, what specifically?
I'm trying to understand how to set up potential buyers to push out, I think I'm saying the right language, to push out possible homes that they like.
Right.
And I think I hope I'm calling that right.
Yep. Okay.
We can touch on that, but when you go on the MLS site, they actually have classes recorded on the MLS site that can walk you right through all of that. And they're really, really good.
Right.
So if you go in and it's all listed on how to do all of that, and they'll, like I said, step by step on how to add a new buyer, how to set them up for prescriptions, and the portal is another one.
Mm-hmm. I did go in there. I just couldn't find it in the site. And maybe if you just show me where I can find it.
Sure.
Actually, if you go to the top of the MLS site, there's, it's up on the right, and you can just type in subscription and the class will pop right up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the search bar. The MLS site is very, very user-friendly.
Okay.
So we have a bunch of CMAs.
And I also think we were going to have a lender on talking about getting your buyer pre-approved and all of that. So I think we're working on that too. Okay. All right. So
Janine, is if we would get a lender in talking about the difference in loans.
Yes, pre-approval and difference in loans. Absolutely.
What's the difference between a conventional FHA, a VHA? Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yep. All right. Well, we will work on next week. It may be a lender. And then we can go over, we will definitely be going over the competitive market analysis. Just a shout out, family reunion. Please, if you have not registered, register. I can tell you personally, I have never, nor has Connie, I believe.
Nope, I've been at everyone.
And honestly, it has taken not only myself, but our team to the next level. You will take one or two things, one or two ahas, and implement them in your life, in your business, and it will be life-changing. Their speakers are amazing. They're real people just like us that are just doing things a little bit differently. Even if it's just a tweak of something that you're doing, could be life-changing for you. So please sign up. It's so comparatively going to family reunion live versus virtual, the cost is minimal and it could increase your business twofold. Every single year, you know, my business increases and it's because of the training in my mindset. So do it. Do it.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
Perfect. You guys have a great day.
Have a
Stay
great
warm. And get a shovel.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.